What's going on, everyone? It's your girl Angie Snatch coming at you with a live talk back with Snatch. So I know I just uploaded that video with the evidence that the prosecution did not have. And baby, when I say all of the Polight supporters or pro-Polight advocates went crazy under the comment section, definitely shout out to YK The Truth. Before I get into this, I got a couple of messages about his live and like, how did I feel about it? Did I think that he was, I mean, not his live, his video upload with the Sweet Mob panel. And how did I feel about that? And did I feel like he was misrepresenting my information? Honestly, I don't feel like he was misrepresenting my information. I feel like he was misrepresenting the context of that panel because they were speaking at a time when the news kind of had just broke with Tasha K. So he presented it as if they were misleading people when really it was just what they knew at the time. And of course, like even what we're talking about today, what I've talked about before, it will evolve as more information comes out. So I want to go into some of it. First, I'm going to start with questions that I've already gotten and get through that. Hey, Chief X, I took too long. Did I take too long? I'm sorry. I had to pour me a glass of La Marca with papaya juice. I love it. Shout out to Mel. Hey, Mel, how are you? Okay, so let me get into this really quickly. There were a lot of questions about the alibi and that demand for alibi in that portion of the video where I talked about how Polight did not give any statements to officers or any law officials. And I think that people are correct when they say that not only was he asserting his Fifth Amendment right, but also that, what did I see? What did I see? That Polight didn't want to, knew that anything he said would incriminate him. However, I also saw people say that you don't have to give a defense. And I mean, an alibi, and that is not completely accurate. Okay, so I want to show you guys this. This is a federal rule, and then I'll bring on the Florida criminal procedure rule. But so federal rule 12.1 provides for pretrial notice to the government of the defendant's intention to offer a defense of alibi. The government carries the burden of triggering the notice requirement through a written demand served upon the defendant. We know that he was served. Specifying the time, date, and place of the charged offense. If the defendant intends to offer an alibi defense, he/she must then respond by specifying his whereabouts at the time of the offense and by identifying the witnesses whom he intends to call to prove his alibi. The prosecution must then serve the defendant with notice of those witnesses who will place him at the crime scene. So then the prosecution would give a list of witnesses that they have to rebut that. But also, so he does have to provide an alibi, but you do not have to provide an alibi beyond reasonable doubt. That's the key thing. So all he has to say, let's say a receipt from dinner. This is bare minimum what he could do. A receipt from dinner. This is where I was at this time. That's it. That's all that he would have to provide. Now, you cannot say anything. Now, you have the right not to testify in your defense, but you can't not have some sort of alibi. So there's two different types of defenses that you could have in a case like this one. Let me pull it up. Yeah, this one. Okay. So what you see on your screen, and let me make sure you can see it right. Yeah, you can see it good. All right. Alibi, and this is a Florida law firm, Huson and Weber. So alibi versus affirmative defense. Under Florida law, an alibi is not an affirmative defense. And then they cite a case. Unlike an affirmative defense, where the accused admits to the essential act but attempts to excuse or justify the act, the alibi operates to deny that the accused was the person who committed the offense in the first place. In effect, a defendant raising the alibi defense says, perhaps a criminal act occurred, however, I wasn't there at the time of the incident, so I could not be the person who committed the act. I therefore deny your allegations. So that is the difference between an alibi versus an affirmative defense. He has to provide an alibi. However, you are not required to provide an alibi beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, let's get into the second thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'm going to share again. I want to get into the second thing because another thing that I saw, people had a lot of questions about, hey, Sharia. So people had a lot of questions about the cameras and the surveillance portion of that. And one question was, if the prosecution has the cameras, would the defense know by now? Yes, the defense would know by now because the prosecution has already delivered their discovery. Unless it rolls in later, they would have to give them time because you have a right to defend yourself. But the prosecution still has a right to have all of the information to prosecute their case. Now, just because you give an alibi defense doesn't mean that the prosecution does not also still have the same burden of proof of proving that you in fact committed this crime. I wanted to share this about cameras. I have a company, so I know that you pay for a camera, right? But then you also pay for the storage. That's a totally different plan to have a storage plan. But this is on Quora, and I think this person kind of broke it down good. Different organizations have different requirements. Banks and government offices usually have to store somewhere from 1 month to 6 months. Markets and shopping malls, somewhere between 1 and 3 months. For privately owned businesses, it is a balancing act, is what he's trying to say, between storage and the cost of storage. Storage gets crazy expensive once you cross a certain threshold. So I hope that answers that person's question as well. With the evidence that they have, now that we know what they have and what they don't have, I think that it's fair to say that yes, the prosecution does not know where he was beyond the statements of Linda Arocho and T.S. the minor. They don't affirmatively know where he's saying he was, what his defense is. So that is a fair statement that he has never made a public statement to anyone, including an official. However, that doesn't mean that the prosecution needs to have a statement from him to prove their case, because we've already went through the evidence that they've had so far. And we know that they have the toxicology report. We know that they have the DNA. Now, the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, I saw somebody write that is like, honestly, that's so far-fetched. It's like going down a rabbit hole. That will take me down a whole different rabbit hole to argue this woman putting on clothes on her daughter and moving from one space to another. I would prefer he wasn't there at all. They're lying. I would prefer the scorned lover defense over the whole Monica Lewinsky defense. And I won't even get into how I feel about Monica Lewinsky. Yes, I did think Bill Clinton, Black people love Bill Clinton. However, I do think that when you are in a position and this person is your senior, this is why they have no fraternizing in companies. It does put you in a position of submission. And especially when you're a young woman, a successful man, movie Pretty Woman comes to mind. You're young and impressionable. I think she was fully demonized. We didn't have the Me Too movement back then. So let me know, do you guys have any questions Put your questions in the chat. I'm going to drop the StreamYard invite in the chat if you want to come on. Do that now. I hope that my sound is okay. Let me see. This is one other thing when it comes to the alibi that I wanted to show you. An alibi and reasonable doubt. The fact that a defendant presents an alibi defense does not change the requirement that the prosecutor prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense also does not have to provide the alibi beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's what I was saying earlier. The defense also does not have to provide the alibi beyond a reasonable doubt. They at least have to give a reasonable doubt, because if that's the case, then you're going to plead no contest or guilty. You can't just not say nothing like I'm going to sit here. No, if you plead not guilty, you have to at least give an alibi beyond a reasonable doubt. If the jury or judge does not believe the alibi defense, the prosecution still must prove all elements of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. In addition to proving that the defendant was at the scene of the crime, the evidence in the case must prove all other elements of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant actually committed a criminal act. This is an example. If the jury is not convinced of Bill's alibi, the jury cannot and is not required to stop there and convict Bill. The jury still must consider whether the prosecution has proved that Bill had illegal drugs in his possession and that he exchanged the drugs with minors for money. So yes, he does have to provide an alibi. What's going on, Chief X? I want you to come up here. I want to see what you think. I watch you all the time. I want to talk to you. Come on up. So there was another thing that I wanted to discuss. I had seen that people asked about the Fontainebleau Hotel. That's still a very gray area, even for me, to be honest, because I would think that there would be some footage from the Fontainebleau, or at least someone testifying. Now, in his response to the demand for alibi, Polight could call a witness, maybe, a front desk person. But as I said, he does not have to, because once you call a witness as an alibi witness, that witness is also then put under a microscope and under scrutiny for anything that they've done in their life, basically. Hold on one second. While I'm waiting for some questions on Polight, I did want to go over this. So what I'm working on right now is the African Bambaataa case. Oh, let me bring Chief X up, and then I'll come back to the African Bambaataa case. Peace, Chief X. How are you?
How you doing, Miss Snatch Investigations?
Oh, you out in the streets, huh?
Yeah, I just left my son's football game. He had a college football game, so I drove 2 hours to go watch it.
Oh, wow. Did he win?
Yeah, they killed him. It's like it was child abuse. They beat they beat him like 70-0 in a football game.
Oh, nice. So
Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good. So what are you thinking
Okay.
about this Brother Polight case? So thus far, you covered my videos before. Thank you. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I love your channel. I love the way you do your thing, because you always remain unbiased, and you can tell that your intent is good, and that you're just trying to inform the people, and you don't mean no harm. So I like you. I can read.
Thank you. I really don't mean any harm, you know. I mean, especially I don't want to judge anyone that has their own positions. You know, I have now met YK the Truth in my chat box, so I know kind of who the players are and where they stand, but I respect everyone. Just bringing the information, you can't be mad at that.
Right. I noticed you don't do any snapback, and you let people feel how they want to feel and speak what they want to speak.
Yeah, because at the end of this, you know, I want everyone to still like me. I didn't know about this last video that I did, this bringing this information. I knew it would trigger some people to give for like a little leverage in his corner. What do you think? Do you think he has leverage or
No, you know what? I think like you think, because I heard you the other day. I think it's a solid case for the prosecution. I also think um, that I just believe that there's some text messages. Um, I think also I don't know if but also you know how if you have a cell phone, Google
Mhm.
puts you at a certain spot.
Right?
You know so I think it's a solid case for the prosecution. I just in my thoughts, I just don't see no way out. But you never know. You know, this court things happen. You know what I mean? So you never know.
Yeah, you never know. That's why I try to do it the way I do it because I know, I mean, really, us as Black people all this time, we should know when you get too attached to the outcome of the case, sometimes you setting yourself up for disappointment. So it's
Right, right, right.
always better to just, you know, like watch.
It's it's funny you say that because I had a dream, and in one of my dreams, for some reason, Polight's case came in, and for some reason in my dream he got off, and my heart dropped. I said, "Let me step back."
That was a nightmare. He was in your dreams.
Yeah, I had a dream, and the Polite case came in a dream, and he got off, and I woke up.
You were like, but you know, I think that he does have an opportunity to weave a narrative, but it really is going to be down to, in my opinion, him placing himself somewhere else, affirmatively
Right,
placing himself somewhere else.
right, and that'd be a hard one, because you know what I'm thinking. Like I'm sure before and after, between Polite, the daughter, and the mother, that there was some texting or phone calls going on, like where you going or where you at. I'm on my way, this or that. So I mean,
You know,
unless
another thing I was thinking though, so when I did the video in assuming personal identity, I talked about, you know, they have something where he somebody gave them the right of assuming personal identity. I went down this other route and was like, what if it is Linda's personal online identity that she gave them the right to and they communicated in that way? I might be watching too much Law and Order SVU, but I was just saying, yeah.
CSI, Snatch Investigation.
Yes.
CSI.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I mean, you're right. There could be some type of messaging or something, but when they say we from the search and seizure, there were no papers, objects, or belongings from him. Do you think that it is the DNA from the first day that they're relying on and then his sample?
Yeah, the DNA the first day in his sample. They don't have none on him. You know, he don't. I mean, he was out of state anyway, so he gets around. So I doubt they would have. Did they ever go to a room? His actual room that he had
Yes,
registered
they
to him?
did. Yeah, they did go and do
Okay.
a search and seizure. That was of the room, actually of the crime scene.
Yeah.
They did there.
Yeah, he
So
probably went straight. He probably went after dropping her off. He probably went straight somewhere, grabbed his belongings and his stuff, and bounced and evaded them for a few weeks.
and one thing I know people don't like to give him credit. When it comes to paperwork and court, I think he's pretty astute in it because one thing, what do we teach our children immediately if you're arrested? Call, ask for your mother, ask for your father, ask for an attorney, you know? So I'm not surprised by it, but I'm surprised that all these months have passed and they haven't done it. They haven't had
Right.
any statement. But I'm gonna let you go, Chief X, because I want to do the I want to cover this African Bambata thing. You know, he goes to court tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. And enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'll be listening as I'm driving.
Okay, sounds good. Be safe. Congratulations to your son.
All right. Thanks, lady.
All right. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. You might have to go back to the replay because I went through the alibi and all of that. I think everyone was kind of here at the time. I wanted to go over. Okay, so I have been binge watching the Layla Will. Is it Layla Wills? I hope I say her name right. I have been binge watching the Layla Wills series on Africa Bambaataa. So it got me interested. I mean, we all have heard of Hassan Campbell. I mean, you know, you should have heard of Hassan Campbell. If you know little old me, you've heard of Hassan Campbell. So that's kind of how I guess my algorithm brought her up from me watching some of Hassan Campbell's videos. And I've been binge watching her series. So, you know me, I want to see what the court docket say. So I know that this case was filed under the Child Victims Act because New York, after the whole Jeffrey Epstein and was it Harvey Weinstein, but definitely Jeffrey Epstein. After that case, then they extended the time to a deadline this year for any child victims because the statute of limitation had run out. So I've been watching her video docu series on African Bambaataa. I actually really like her style. I want to do some videos like that. I am going to drop a video where I'm interviewing a prosecutor here in my city to answer some of the questions that, you know, I have. But I started looking into his case. The case is brought by Anonymous against Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation, and XYZ Group. And they actually filed for anonymity back in 2019 because I thought that this was a case that came up now. Well, it did come up now, but they were filing for anonymity, I guess, prior to filing a case like ex parte or something like that. But so the person anonymous versus them, I'm going to get the recording of this trial tomorrow, but it's nothing really to get. I don't think that we'll get a lot out of it because tomorrow will be so it's John Doe because he filed for, and there's actually sealed documents in this case as well. And I found that kind of odd, especially when we're talking about an adult filing, even though he's filing as a minor for what happened to him as a minor. He's an adult at the time of filing. So I thought that was kind of interesting that there were sealed documents. But so Anonymous is filing against them and one of his roommates. But what they're filing for now, what tomorrow will be, is a restraining order. And this is a civil case, by the way. This case against Lance Taylor, aka African Bambaataa. This is a civil case, but tomorrow will be the restraining order, and this is in the Bronx Supreme Court. Now, I thought this was funny because it's a typo. It's not supposed to be there, but it says plaintiff attorney Tanner and Ortega LLP And then it says defendant attorney, Zulu Nation. So I'm literally looking up, like, that's how foolish I am. I'm literally looking up, like, does Zulu Nation have a law firm? You got to be kidding me. But no, they don't have a law firm. All of them are, none of them have attorneys listed. So all of them are going forward pro se. They may bring some attorneys on board, you know, as the case goes on, maybe for the motion hearing. The restraining order, we'll see tomorrow what that is about, because I'm wondering. I mean, this person is grown, and the plaintiff lives in the Bronx, and African Bambaataa lives in Teaneck, New Jersey, which I used to live in Tenafly, by the way. But African Bambaataa lives in Teaneck, New Jersey. So I couldn't see them truly crossing paths, but you never know, because bringing a case like this, even though it may be John Doe to us, it doesn't mean that other people don't know who it is. You know, word usually spreads fast. But I'm definitely going to watch it tomorrow. If I am lucky. If I'm lucky, I'll bring it right to you guys as it's happening, but maybe not. I did reach out in the Brother Polight case. I reached out to Nicole Garcia, who is the prosecutor, to see if she would answer some of our questions and to make any public statement. She said that she could not make a public statement on the case, but she did give me the Florida prosecutor's office media department to see if they can make, you know, some type of blanket statement, or sometimes they'll go through some of your questions, clear them, because it's still a government. They'll go through some of your questions, clear them, and then maybe respond, maybe not respond. You know that Adam Rosson hasn't responded to me yet, so we'll see. Hey, Tony, how are you? So you guys were like, there was so much back and forth in the chat. I wanted you guys to come up or put in the chat box any questions that you had. Let me see. Let me go through. Hold on. Okay, so Third Eye King, I already went over that there are no that he does have to give an alibi. His alibi just doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So he does have to give an alibi, but it doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So his alibi can be stating that he wasn't there at the time, and that will be good enough. I hope that Zion Lex does put this up so everybody can get a full view of what's going on. Can someone? So basically, it was all around the statements and the footage. But now that we're all clear, if there's no more questions, I'm going to get out of here. But tomorrow, I'm going to come back because African Bambaataa goes to court at, I think it's 10 o'clock tomorrow. So hopefully I can get that. And I don't think it's just one person in his case either, because it says plaintiffs in a lot of spaces within the documents, even though it says anonymous. So we'll check it out. Thank you so much, guys, for coming out tonight. It's your girl, Angie Snatch.